friends. Good evening. Hello. It is my great pleasure to welcome everyone to the broadcast of the YouTube channel Kurbanova Live. I welcome our audience who know for sure that this is the place and time to look for answers to many questions about what is happening in the world right now, how much scarier things are becoming, and how much the situation is escalating. This concerns not only the Russian-Ukrainian war, but also the situation in the Middle East and beyond. Everything that is arising and happening in the world right now suggests that most likely, yes, we are entering a zone of turbulence and instability. Is it possible to stop this? Is it possible to destroy the axis of evil and return peace to the world? We'll try to talk about this today, among other things, friends. And of course, as always, I will urge you not to forget to support us. The enemy, the Ukrainian enemy, is treacherous, strong, cunning, and possesses many tools. Not only with military equipment, not only with special operations forces, but also, of course, with information propaganda. It's not always aimed only at Ukrainians. It's also aimed at those who in general speak, understand, listen to, or watch content in Russian. It's aimed at Europeans. They speak all language 7 to Americans. And we need to stand up to this, right? So that the Russian propaganda machine stalls, just like it did at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. We need to tell more truth about Ukraine, to tell more truth about our war. And I urge you to help us with this. Don't forget to leave your like. That way, the YouTube algorithms kick in and recommend us to more people, more YouTube users. And of course, subscribe to this channel's Kurbanova Live. If you haven't done so yet, all your questions, all your clarifications, everything you would like to ask as a question to our guest, to our expert, but conference, of course, you have the option and the opportunity to leave these questions in the chat section. I will definitely voice the most interesting and most relevant ones. And as always, I encourage you to share your thoughts, opinions, and concerns about what is happening in Ukraine, the Middle East, and beyond. And of course, we always use our chat for roll calls so that you can write where you are watching and listening to us from, where you are located. Friends, I am working for you from Kyiv. The Netherlands are with us. Hello, good evening. Rotterdam is joining us from Calgary. We welcome you. Liko Britannia is also with us. Warsaw is watching and listening to you. Vasiliki, good evening. Shoska is with us. Svetlovodsk is here too. Greetings from Baku. Good evening. The Netherlands again. Hello. Thank you for being with us. Vladimir, good evening. Thank you for seeking quality analysis. Sevastopol, Canada, good evening. London is here with us as well. Hello. Thank you for joining us. And Basel too, friends, thank you for writing in. Thank you for not forgetting about our roll call. While you are gradually joining us little by little, in the meantime, as always, I'm already ready to introduce our guest, our Wednesday evening guest, the main expert of our international affairs segment. Joining us is political scientist and expert on international politics, Ramiz Yunus, with whom I am very pleased to speak. Mr. Yunus, good evening. Hello. Hello. Thank you very much for being with us. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Greetings to you. I'm glad to see you in good health. I greet our highly respected audience. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to heroes. Mr. Yunus, so today we will, so to speak, divide things up. Of course, we want to cover everything, all at once. Nevertheless, yes, we don't always manage to do that, but we'll try because we definitely want to talk about the track related to Ukraine. For us, as you know, the world is Ukraine-centric, and these issues are the most important. But we understand that, of course, today a rather large share of attention has shifted to the Middle East. Those who listened to you carefully, who paid close attention to our broadcasts with you, who read your posts, you said, look, wait, things might flare up there. The issue of Iran will be resolved in some way. But what we see from Kyiv, right? Israel is addressing the issue of its national security. Iran says Israel should not exist. Throw the Jews into the sea, destroy this country. Israel is now essentially dealing with its enemy in order to protect its own life. It is carrying out precision strikes, eliminating military command, war criminals, and dismantling the entire military-industrial complex piece by piece. Donald Trump and the United States, they more or less kept their distance, right? They called for negotiations to take place for meetings, discussions about the nuclear program, and did not publicly support Israel's strikes or such rhetoric. And then this operation of carrying out strikes in Iran began. And gradually we saw how Donald Trump's position changed dramatically. It turns out that now he is the one winning in Iran. Apparently, Iran must capitulate today, right now, or else things will go badly. Although everyone, I saw Ukrainian public pages, for example, reposted his video from 2020, where he claimed back in 2020 that Joe Biden would start a war against Iran, that it would be a colossal mistake because he's crazy. That it would lead to, nuclear escalation and more. And of course, all of this is very strange. In our view, it is Israel that is achieving success, while Donald Trump is trying to reap the benefits so he can say, look, I'm great and I brought you peace. But this isn't peace, it's complicity in war, which in principle is normal when you're dealing with your enemies. What is happening in the Middle East right now? What is the United States doing? What will the United States do? Is this leading to a nuclear confrontation? After all, both China and Russia are backing Iran. But today, an accomplice of the axis of evil is being destroyed. And we really want to understand what exactly, including Moscow, will do next.
First of all, I want to thank you for remembering that I have regularly talked about this on your channel, as well as on all other Ukrainian and not only Ukrainian channels. When I spoke about what Donald Trump would do, we can see failed with his peace through strength approach regarding the Russia-Ukraine issue. He also failed to achieve success on Middle Eastern issues. I mean, the Arab-Israeli confrontation in Gaza, Israel, and Hamas. What happened after October 7th and up to today, this confrontation is still ongoing and the hostages have still not been released. And I told you that in all of this, the weak link is Iran. And it is precisely there that Donald Trump will try to apply this principle, peace through strength. And today we see that all this dirty work, publicly at least, right? It seems as if Israel, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, is doing it on behalf of the Americans. While it is no secret to anyone that from the very first minute of this entire confrontation and this operation, Donald Trump personally, his entire team, the United States of America, and the military political leadership have been standing side by side, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with Israel. That is absolutely clear. So all this talk that you hear in the public sphere, all this rhetoric, it's just to create confusion, including those negotiations that took place between the US and Iranian delegations, which over the course of 2 months led to no results at all. That's why, because even the very fact that he himself said 2 months, 60 days, and then on the 61st day, he gave the go-ahead. And after giving the go-ahead, he simply stuck to the rhetoric as such. And why is that? Because as you yourself understand, he stated both during the election campaign and later after coming to power, all this time he wants to say, I don't start wars. I don't initiate wars. I'm a peacemaker. On the contrary, I'm the one closing down all these wars. So here too, he wants to show that it's not me, it's Israel. It's their, so to speak, self-defense, and I'm just standing by as an ally. But at the right moment, I'll step in again, because I told the Iranians, go ahead, agree to it now while you still can. Well, everyone understands that the negotiations were just used as a cover, and all this rhetoric is also just a smokescreen. And such a perfect opportunity as the one that has presented itself today for Benjamin Netanyahu personally, for Israel as a whole, for Donald Trump personally, and for the United States as a whole, I don't think they'll be able to get again anytime soon. I mean, the open corridor that has allowed Israel today to freely cross the airspace of Syria, Iraq, and to decapitate the entire air defense system of Iran itself. Until very recently, as you know, this was impossible while Bashar al-Assad's regime was in power in Syria. Now, look, I've already mentioned this on some broadcasts. And to you, dear Olena, and to the viewers, I would simply suggest just ask yourselves this question. Look, after October 7th, when officially was Hamas that launched the attack on Israel, right? That very event that happened, and behind Hamas stood Iran. And look at what we see as the bottom line. In the end, Hamas is almost destroyed. Hezbollah is almost destroyed. Bashar al-Assad has been overthrown, and the Houthis have quieted down. And as a result, there is a full-scale attack on Iran. And as a result, today there are several issues on the agenda. And one of them is either the dismantling of the current oligarchy of this regime, or simply the complete decapitation of the current political leadership and its replacement by someone from the existing political elite. I'm not mentioning this for nothing, because as you can see, neither the presidential administration nor the president himself and his inner circle are being touched here. But all those who are in one way or another connected with the radicals, with the spiritual leader, and with the IRGC, they are literally being killed on a regular basis. So the bet is on removing the radicals and moving forward the two options, right? Or to take, so to speak, a softer approach, that is not to dismantle the regime right away, because that could lead to chaos. And if the chaos is controllable, that's good. But chaos can also be uncontrollable. Don't forget, there are a huge number of different ethnic groups there, and things could get out of control. And then even the United States might not get off lightly. I don't think they're considering that kind of scenario. But as for the scenario of dismantling the current government in order to make Iran more peaceful and more loyal, following the model and example of what we see today in Syria. Well, in Syria, there was a charismatic leader, Jolani, who enjoyed great authority and support, including from Turkey itself. And that's why he could easily replace Bashar al-Assad's regime, which was propped up by Russian bayonets and Iranian proxy forces, right? And as you can see, by 2015, Bashar al-Assad controlled nothing except Damascus. But then Russia and Iran intervened and restored his power. But notice, his power collapsed as soon as after October 7th, this aggression against Israel took place. And as a result, what happened is exactly what happened. A simple question, maybe someone actually planned this multi-step scheme, such a cruel scheme. But as a result of this cruel scheme, just look, yes, I'm just talking about the facts right now. Yes, take October 7th and look at today, such a short period of time, right? And the result is, so to speak, the cup is being smashed today over the head of the current regime. This regime itself couldn't have calculated it all like this on its own. So somewhere in some secret offices, they could have worked out such a multi-step scheme, and why not? And I'll just leave it at that. I'm just raising this question so that everyone can think about it. But ultimately, what we see today is that I think this issue won't be dropped halfway. I listened carefully to Donald Trump's speech yesterday on board the plane, returning from the G7, and it was clear that he was, well, literally dodging all the questions with his answers, because, as I understand it, he remained silent. And with this rhetoric, he gave everyone the chance to see how this operation would end, in which direction it would move. And when everyone saw that, well, the Iranian regime, the regime of the oligarchia, was suffering a complete fiasco like a sieve, just imagine what it takes to bring a country to this point after 46 years. You can be authoritarian, a dictatorial country of some sort, right? But first of all, you must be prepared for the fact that if you are a state that is declared an enemy and is ready to destroy it, then know that tomorrow you will receive some kind of response. So you have to be ready for that. And if there is such a confrontation, I'm not just bringing up, for example, Pakistan and India for nothing, right? Pakistan is several times smaller than India in terms of population, economic capabilities, and military technical capabilities. But despite this, in the most recent confrontation, Pakistan won, and primarily won in the air. Why? Because Pakistan was preparing, knowing that it would be in this confrontation with India for a long time to come. And over all these years, it prepared itself militarily and technically, and found good allies, thanks to China as well. And China, which, as you can understand, is in the same confrontation with India, supported Pakistan in this situation, and Pakistan defended itself with dignity. But why hasn't Iran been able to do this in all these 46 years? And not thanks to China, not thanks to Russia, nor to anyone else, including some Europeans, first and foremost, France, who helped Iran circumvent these sanctions all these years. Because don't forget that Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini arrived in 1978 from Paris, accompanied by French intelligence agents. He was in Paris all that time, and the French Islamic Revolution was actually directed from there. That's why it's no coincidence that France still holds strong positions to this day. And this recent statement by Macron regarding what's happening now on this topic, yes, and that France is against, so to speak, the dismantling of this regime, warning everyone that it could lead to the same kind of chaos, right? Because out of all the European countries, France has the greatest political, economic, and intelligence interest there. So we need to understand that, right? And here, a completely different game is being played. And I think the main players here are the United States of America and Israel. And even when you said in your preamble, I hear that many people today are talking about the role that Russia might play in this situation. Russia will not be able to play any role in this situation. Donald Trump will not let anyone else claim the laurels of victory in this situation. Even to Benjamin Netanyahu, he will give only as much as is necessary for Benjamin Netanyahu to stay in power and avoid, let's say, the legal proceedings that will inevitably arise when the war ends, or if any political crisis occurs. Whenever wars end, even if it's the victorious country or the losing side, sooner or later, a certain political crisis always arises, right? And considering that, as you know, Israeli society is divided, there are a huge number of legal cases against Netanyahu there. But considering that today Netanyahu is boosting his ratings precisely with this very operation, I think it's just as much as he needs. Donald Trump will give him his due, but all the other laurels he'll take for himself and won't share them with anyone, especially not with Russia. I'm not even talking about China here, because the situation with Russia's and China's respective roles will in many ways remind me of what happened previously, specifically when Turkey handed things over to Russia and Iran during the events that unfolded in Syria. Let me remind you how kindly and at a very high level President Erdogan spoke about the president of Russia when he said that there are only two great politicians left on the planet, himself and the president of Russia. He said this after the Russians were kicked out of Syria, meaning Russia lost. In other words, Turkey outmaneuvered them. And at that moment, such a phrase was said. So when Donald Trump says something on board a plane or writes something on Twitter, making gestures toward Russia specifically on this topic, I mean, regarding mediation services, it's simply done so that he is sticking to his own agenda. His agenda is based on the fact that if he failed to achieve peace through force in the Russia-Ukraine war, well, you see now he's in particular indeed quite actively doing everything possible to separate the Russia-US relationship into a separate case apart from the Russia-Ukraine war. And what was announced by the Russian embassy in the US, that technical groups are meeting, but then as you can see, after this war between Israel and Iran, that meeting was postponed at the request of the United States. And this shows that the Americans today understand that all these problems need to be solved step by step. And a victory for Israel or even a victory for Donald Trump on this issue on the Iranian front will strengthen Donald Trump's position, including in relations with China, because here the main topic is China, not Russia. Russia is secondary here because, notice, neither China nor Russia. No one is getting involved. In general, no one is standing up for Iran, especially not those countries that in principle should have enmity, the so-called axis of evil, China, Russia, North Korea. So here we hear nothing except deep concern. And it is by no means a coincidence that today we recall the agreement that was signed between Iran and Russia on January 17th, 3 days before Donald Trump took office in Moscow. If you remember the main point, it was clearly stated that in the event of aggression against one of these countries, the other side simply does not assist the aggressor and does not provide its territory. In other words, today Russia pledges not to support either the US or Israel in this confrontation with Iran. For Iran, this makes no difference whatsoever. And as for the political aspect, this is a defeat for Russia itself, just as it was in the Syrian direction. And this is Russia's ally. This doesn't just concern the Shaheds and everything else that happened with Iran. If there is a dismantling or if a political crisis occurs there, and most likely there will be a political crisis, definitely does not strengthen their position. And so a weakening of their position in Syria is bad for Russia. A weakening of their position in Iran is bad for Russia. And a weakening of China's position is bad for China. And this, of course, strengthens the position of Donald Trump. And that's exactly what he needs, first and foremost, to show the whole world, to say that I wasn't joking when I spoke about the Russian-Ukrainian direction, about the Middle East direction, that if necessary, I will use force. It's not for nothing that I've been telling you for the past few months that most likely he will use it specifically in the Iranian direction. Because, as you can see, no one is standing up for Iran when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine issue. In the Middle East, even in the Gaza Strip, it's also much more difficult because that's a completely different matter. There, the issue is Jerusalem and the existence of two states, Israel and Palestine, which were established more than 70 years ago when the state of Israel was created. And this is an unsolvable problem. It wasn't unsolvable just yesterday, and it's not unsolvable only today. And I don't see a solution to this problem in the near future either. And that's why I understand that Donald Trump also realizes that he can't solve this neither on the Russia-Ukraine issue nor here. But here he can easily and calmly solve this, restoring his reputation as not just a talker, because we all use tough call that even by his own journalists in the White House who come to him and say, you talk about tariffs, you take one step forward, two steps back, you talk about peace through strength. So when are you going to use that strength against this one, that one, including Russia, 4 weeks, 2 weeks? And here he has a real opportunity to demonstrate that strength. And as you can see, he is literally elated, showing all of this. And notice Benjamin Netanyahu is giving him all the credit for this. That is, all this work is essentially being done here by Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. And Donald Trump has just returned from there unexpectedly. And now everyone is wondering whether there will be these bombings with bunker buster bombs or not. Well, judging by what we see today, that a third destroyer is already on its way there. I'm talking about the Nimitz, and the other two are already there. And those B-2 bombers, which can carry those very heavy bunker buster bombs, they are also on standby approaching the area. And Donald Trump says that the decision will be made within the next 48 hours. I just understand that Iran's decision in this case will not be a half measure, because such a perfect opportunity as the one we are seeing today will not present itself to the United States of America and Israel in the coming years. Therefore, my understanding see the situation as follows. The goal is set for the dismantling of this regime and the change of power, but not in such a way that it would lead to chaos, rather for it to happen through the same political elites, and perhaps in the person of President Pezeshkian himself.
You know, you are absolutely right when you emphasize that Russia cannot do anything. We saw a post from the Iranian ambassador in Russia who wrote that we will remember well those who stood with us, who helped us, although it's not clear who exactly he meant. And well, it means we will also remember those who took a neutral stance and did nothing. Of course, he was talking about Russia. But on the one hand, if everything goes, as you say, if Donald Trump really gives the order to carry out strikes, then that's peace through force. If it turns out to be another agreement and they say, let's meet again in Oman, in Qatar, wherever, it will be the same thing, just endless talk. And of course, it all looks like Benjamin Netanyahu is simply giving the credit to Donald Trump. And you know what? We're ready to say anything he wants to. If he wants us to say that there wouldn't have been a war if he had been president, let's say, if we need to say that it was Donald Trump who defeated Russia, then of course we'll just forget about everyone else. We won't mention anyone, not the armed forces of Ukraine, not the Ukrainian president, not the government, not the people, no one. We're ready to give him absolutely everything, but in our war, it's a bit more difficult for him. We understand and we acknowledge that the situation with Iran has drawn the maximum amount of attention away from the Russia-Ukraine war. The bombs, the missiles that were meant to shoot down Shaheds launched at us have been given and sent to the Middle East to reinforce American bases. All the attention Donald Trump doesn't read the news, doesn't watch anything. Everything is only about that, or the information that reaches him. He didn't even know what was happening in Kyiv. You always ask me, you probably always ask all Ukrainian journalists, how are things? And things are such that when there are no bombings, everything is fine. When there are bombings, it's very frightening. It's very terrifying. And personally, I, like our entire country, am in shock every time our people are pulled out from under the rubble. Only today, after many hours, did they finish clearing the debris. And you know that a large number of peaceful Ukrainians who were sleeping in their homes were killed by Russian missiles. And Putin also understands that the attention of Donald Trump and all Americans is now diverted away from us. After these terrible attacks last night, President Zelensky said that Russia is planning further attacks, taking advantage of the fact that they might now go less noticed by the world because of the focus on the situation in the Middle East. There are no signs that anyone in Moscow is preparing to end the war or is seriously considering diplomacy. Nevertheless, thank you very much, Mr. Gindulo, for this hour. As always, it flies by in an instant. We still have plenty of topics left in reserve. There is always the desire to ask more and more questions, but that's what makes it so wonderful that we meet with you every week, every Wednesday. And as always, we will be looking forward to your return exactly 7 days from now. So please be sure to come back to us. Thank you very much for today, and see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye. Glory to Ukraine.